Robert Plank Show, Episode 71 Procrastination Solver: How to Achieve Absolute Razor Sharp Focus and Improve Concentration on Demand. I'm Robert Plank, and welcome back to the Internet Marketing Radio Show, where usually we talk about WordPress, email marketing, membership sites, webinars, but today we're going to shift gears a little bit. So if you're stumbling on this podcast in iTunes because you're looking for some kind of mindset help, then great, you're very welcome here. I might stumble into internet marketing territory, so I hope that's okay. But if you're listening to today's podcast because you're a regular subscriber to the Robert Plank Internet Marketing Radio Show, then this is something that has been a long time coming for you probably. The average person, I think, works a 95-day job and they don't get a chance to look inward and realize if they're unhappy or numb or not going anywhere, spinning their wheels on the hamster wheel, on the merry-go-round. They don't even realize it. And so some of us get to the point where we quit our day jobs, work from home, and then we're working from home, and there's those long days where, oh crap, now I've got the 8 or 10 hours a day that I had at work, wasting time, working for someone else, commuting to and from. Now I have that as free time. What the heck am I going to do? And now it's tough to become your own boss, especially if you spent maybe even decades being an employee for someone else. We're going to talk today about solving those 3 problems. Well, I guess let's say 4 problems: general motivation, absolute focus, procrastination, and concentration. I have 16 things total for you. I'm not going to say 16 tips because that sounds like just 16 little unimportant things. I'm not going to say 16 steps because it makes you think, well, geez, it's a lot of steps to go through. Oscar Wilde says, "What seems to us as bitter trials are often blessings in disguise." You may think the grass is greener on the other side, but if you take the time to water your own grass, it would be just as green. Philosopher Karl Popper says true ignorance is not the absence of knowledge, but instead the refusal to acquire it. And finally, there are 3 simple rules in life. Rule number 1, if you don't go after what you want, you'll never have it. Rule number 2, if you don't ask, the answer will always be no. And rule number 3, if you don't step forward, you'll always be in the same place. I'm not going to get too rah-rah motivational speaker on you, but there are 16 things that we can use to fix your situation. And what I would say for you today is to narrow down 3. All 16 are important, but man, your mind is a slippery, wet fish on you, which means that maybe on Monday, then you're going to be, not motivated or not really wanting to get anything done. Once again, whether you're working a day job or you're in a startup or you're working from home or retired, whatever your situation is, you're going to have a tough time getting motivated, and 3 of these things that we're going to talk about today are going to work for you. But the problem with that is that, by maybe Wednesday or Thursday of next week, those 3 things aren't going to work anymore, and you're going to have to choose 3 other things. So I'm going to give you a lot of options, not to overwhelm you or overload you, but so that you can choose the 3 things, the 3 tools in your toolbox that'll work for a while, that'll work for a few days or a few weeks, and then once your brain gets used to that, you can switch to 3 more things. And then the good news about this is if you do some switching here and there, eventually you can loop back around and go back to the original 3 things that work for you. But today, it's all about motivation, productivity, time management, and getting things done. This week's Marketer of the Week, geez, should I say it? All right. I'll say it, even though I'm reluctant to, is Mr. Jim Edwards. And I don't even know his website. Let me Google search this guy real quick. Okay, good news. The first piece of good news is that a membership of his that I joined in, I want to say 2004 or 2005, a monthly membership that I paid month after month for, thenetreporter.com, is still online. How many times have I said, if you're a regular listener to the show, get your site online and keep it online? And so, way over a decade later, this guy's membership site is still up and online. But his blog, to find out what he's all about, is thejimedwardsmethod.com. I'm not going to spell all that out, but his blog is thejimedwardsmethod.com. And he's kind of I feel like this guy's kind of an older me, kind of like an old grumpy guy. And I mean, there are so many of my customers that tell me things like, well, they don't like me as a person, but they buy from me over and over again and hate that they do, but get things out of it. So, I mean, I think that means you're doing something right. So, Jim Edwards from thejimedwardsmethod.com. Now, what did I get out of this guy? Well, very early on when I was in internet marketing, I realized that this site that I paid, I think I paid $97 a month, and he would put out maybe a couple of videos per week. It wasn't on a set schedule, but there's be all these videos about how to make PowerPoint presentations, how to record live action videos, how to record screen capture videos, things like that. And the crazy thing about this was that he would just point and shoot PowerPoint for his video. And it was at a time when a lot of video geeks were bragging about their lighting setup or the geeking out about the video encoding. And he was just like, okay, well, here's the video. Point and shoot, show some stuff. And even in his live action video, man, this is something I need to get back into, but he would point and shoot some live action stuff, like be sitting in a hot tub, be sitting at his desk and explain something. And the problem with live action video, which means that you're pointing a camera just at yourself and you're talking about some kind of technique, is that, well, it's easy to lose the person, and PowerPoint's a little bit better. So what he would do is use these things called Camtasia Callouts. So a great tool for editing video, whether it's screen capture or live action, is called Camtasia Studio. And one of the unique things about Camtasia Studio is that you can have a video that you're editing and add in sound effects and clip it up or whatever, but you can put some text right there on the screen. And so he would talk about something and leave a little bit of the video frame open, just point to thin air, but then when he went back and did the video, he'd really quickly plop in the words he was talking about. Plop in, WordPress website, pop in live action video, stuff like that. So Jim Edwards, a simple but really powerful and helpful thing. You can just point and shoot either live action video and drop in the word a couple keywords later. I'm not talking about subtitles. I'm saying you just have a live action video and then the term you're talking about, the point you're trying to make. And then even just to make products, there's so many information products out there teaching all kinds of things where it's just record what's on the screen, and if what's on the screen happens to be PowerPoint, or if it happens to be a WordPress site, it happens to be a Windows program, you don't have to make it super fancy. And in fact, it's better if you don't have it tightly edited, you don't have music at every 2 seconds, and you don't zoom in and out. That'll be distracting, and it'll take you 10 times as long as it takes just to record something quick and simple. If you wanted to make a 30-minute video, guess how long it takes you? 30 minutes. One take, leave the ums in, and sharpen your skills and do a video often enough to keep the muscle strong so that you don't have to edit a lot of stuff. You don't have to record the whole thing and get nervous at the end and delete it and start over, or say, I just crashed and burned on my video. One take is good enough. And even though you might not be in the internet marketing business or you don't know anything about recording video, there's still something to that. There's still something to having your first draft of something, anything, be the only draft. Like this podcast recording right now. I'll say here and there. I'll pause here and there, and I guess we can pretend that I paused not to collect my thoughts, but pause for effect for you. But one take is good enough, and the same attitude is what I have for writing blog content. It's not like I write a blog post on Monday and go back on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and edit it. This isn't school. You might have a couple typos out there. That's just how it is. But what's more important is that you say what you were going to say the first time as opposed to getting it perfect. Now, circling back around, talking about procrastination and time management, the thing to keep in mind this whole time is this idea of SMART goals. And every time I look into or I think about the big problems you will have, the big thing is they don't have SMART goals. I don't just mean goals that are something they thought through, but SMART is an acronym meaning that your goals should be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. Self-explanatory, right? You don't want to have a goal that's vague, or a goal where you can't actually see the progress you made, or a goal that you can't reach, or a goal that's just so crazy it's like $10 million in a day. And you don't want to have an open-ended goal that say, well, I want to finish my book. A better goal is one that satisfies the criteria of specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. So you want to get your book finished in the next 9 days, and the length of the book will be 90 pages, so that's well within your limits, and it's not like you're saying, I'm going to finish the book in, within the next 10 years. No, 9 days, so it is time-bound. Let's get to solving your procrastination by breaking it down into the component parts. If you're finding that the problems that you need to solve are just too big and huge to tackle, then you need to break it down into your component parts. That might seem like common sense to me, I guess, because I'm a computer programmer, but I guess I still forget about this every now and then. So you might be thinking, well, if my goal is to record 100 podcast episodes, all right, well, how about you just start with one, right? And I know a lot of people who get hung up on all these different things. Like they want to have 50 websites, but they can't even get themselves focused enough to make one website. Or they don't know what to do first, website or build a list. And the answer is either of the above. Just you need to have one, and then you can get to the other. Motivation, focus, procrastination, and concentration. General motivation, let's talk about 4 daily tasks, the Seinfeld calendar, a formula and checklist, and about reducing and rearranging the raw materials. 4 daily tasks is one of the best things I've ever said or thought of or done. And the reason why the best time management advice I have to give to you, and why we're starting here, is because so many time management so-called solutions are all about organizing your to-do list and having a big long to-do list of 1,000 items, and you group them together in a certain way and color code them and put them into quadrants, put them into columns, put them into notebooks, and then you spend more time organizing your to-do list, and you get through like maybe 1 or 2 things, and then you end up adding more and more and more things. And a lot of these to-do list systems are just there to make you feel better. I hate to say it, I'm sorry to say it, and you end up doing all the unimportant things, all these little victories, which it's fine to have a little victory every once in a while. We'll talk about that later. But you don't want to do just little easy things. You want to do tasks that get you closer to your goal, which is making more money. That's why I have a book at 4dailytasks.com/book and a Facebook group, which you are free to join. It's my gift to you for listening to this podcast at 4dailytasks.com/group. That's FOURTASKS. I'm sorry, FOURDALYTASKS.com/GROUP, 4dailytasks.com/group. Join that group on Facebook and then post in the wall that you came to the group from your podcast. I'm curious. The idea behind 4 daily tasks is that you could trick yourself and lie to yourself and tell yourself that you get 20 or 30 things done per day, but you don't. You get 4 things done per day. And you might disagree with me and say, no, I get 10, 20 things done every day. Well, we might have, we do have a disagreement then about what a thing involves. And when I say 4 daily tasks, I mean 3 tasks that are about 40 minutes long, and then 1 task that's about 10 minutes long. And I used to say 45 minutes and 15, but I find I do even less. So if you say, but I gotta do 50 little things. I gotta check my email, check my Twitter, check my Facebook. Well, do you? Is checking your email, checking Facebook, is that something that actually makes you money? Or is it something that you use to distract yourself when you're bored? And you say, no, you don't get it. I go on Facebook to make my connections. Well, do you jump right in there and make connections, or do you go and browse and look and see what everyone else is doing and talking about, and the next thing you know, 3 hours are wasted? You came here, you listen to this podcast because you have a problem, and you realize you have a problem, and it's got to be fixed, and I'm telling you how to fix it. Shut off email, shut off Facebook, and instead, and I mean, you can go to that once your stuff is done. Your brain runs out of decision-making material, some kind of chemical throughout the day, so it's better to get your 4 things done before lunchtime, before noon, and then goof off after. Don't goof off first, because goofing off will eat up the entire day if you let it. 4 daily tasks means, as we said, 3 40-minute tasks and a single 10-minute task, and they're 4 tasks that are business building tasks, and they're deliverable, okay? Meaning that you don't say read book or work on book, You say finish chapter 1. What are you going to finish? Don't say finish 10% of my book. That's not finishing. That's a degree of doneness. Don't chip away at your tasks. Don't organize a to-do list. That's how you got in this frustrated, tired, at a time situation that you got yourself in. Instead, finish writing chapter 2 of your book. And then once you're done, great, you're done, and you move on to the next task and maybe take a little break in there. But I'm telling you, 3 40-minute tasks and a 10-minute task. Now, for me personally, because I run websites and have an online business, a 10-minute task is sending a broadcast email to my list. And a 40-minute task could be recording a podcast or making a video or debugging a specific bug in a WordPress plugin or putting a focused 40 minutes on creating or editing a sales letter, things like that. 4 things a day, 3 40-minute things and a 10-minute thing, and it's got to be business building. Okay, no go and have a bathroom break, no exercise. You can do that stuff, but don't tell me that you're doing those things. I only want to know about your 4 business building tasks. Motivation idea number 2 is the Seinfeld calendar and a 5-day sprint. So Jerry Seinfeld's productivity technique is that he has a calendar where if he got some writing done on January 1st, he draws an X on the calendar. Then if he got some more writing done on January 2nd, draws an X on the calendar. What does this do? Well, it's a nice little visual representation of what did you finish things you wanted to do that day. And once you have enough X's on your calendar, you're not going to want to break that chain. And I found this when and I almost get superstitious where if I go more than a couple of days without doing a task I know makes me money every time, like emailing my list, I feel kind of weird. If I go more than a month without writing a blog post, I feel weird. If I go now a week without putting out a podcast episode, I feel weird, to the point where even if I normally wouldn't feel, and we'll talk about that later too, if I don't feel like recording a podcast episode, I'll psych myself up to do it because I don't want to break the cycle. The fear of breaking that chain of consistently hitting the weekly target, the fear is greater than the procrastination feeling of not recording a podcast, if that makes sense. We don't want to break the cycle. And then what also helps us stay energized, I guess you could say, is a thing called a 5-day sprint. And so let's say that you don't have to work weekends. Okay, let's just say that on Monday you're going to commit yourself to some launch, some project for 5 days. And so in my case, I have a WordPress plugin I sell at backupcreator.com. And my 5-day sprint will be every day of the week, I will be doing all kinds of things to be promoting just that one project. So this is huge. It doesn't mean that I'm going to be kind of dabbling this project, dabbling that project, dabbling that project. I'm promoting our WordPress plugin called Backup Creator. And on every day of the week, I don't plan out anything further than today, other than, okay, my 5-day plan is to promote this plugin, this product. So on Monday, I'll shoot off, before doing anything else, a quick email to my list. And then my next task, one of my bigger tasks, might be to then schedule future email broadcasts for Thursday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I should say. Then another task could be to set up some Facebook ads. Another task could be to record some YouTube demonstration videos later in the week to use to promote the product. So all weekday long, I should say, is just sprinting for that same project, that same promotion. Motivation idea number 3, a formula and a checklist. Life is so much easier if you follow some kind of formula, checklist, how-to, step by step. And it doesn't even matter which one, as long as it's any. For example, if I'm stuck about either a podcast idea or how to expand a podcast, then I'll follow the formula, and it's a 3-part formula of, first of all, introducing a problem and the ways that don't work to fix it. And the next section is the step-by-step on how to fix the problem, and then the final section is an actual case study on where I applied that problem, and then we wrap it all up. If I'm stuck about a blog post and I'm feeling like I need to have a perfect long-form blog post, and I'm expecting perfection, I basically look for 100 solutions to any problem. I'll give you an example. Use today as an example. So today's podcast could have been a blog post talking about motivation, focus, procrastination, and concentration. There's a lot of things there, and I worry that I'm going to miss. I'm going to miss out on some productivity tips, and I probably am. But let's cover 80% of that ground. How do we do that? First, we look for 100 solutions, knowing that we're probably going to find about 20, 25. I mean, let's be serious. If you go and search for ways to stop procrastination or ways to secure WordPress, it's you want to tell yourself you're looking for 100, but you're going to get tired. You're going to see the same things over and over after about 20 or 25, and then you're going to be stretching so much that you're going to realize that out of those 20, 25, only 10 or 15 of those so-called tips were worth even mentioning. And even in those 10 or 15 tips, you could easily group them into 3, maybe 4 groups if you're lucky. Anything that you teach or show can usually be grouped down into 3.5 groups. So once again, 3 normal sized groups and another smaller kind of group. So now we're just going through the categories, and we can rearrange those categories into a step-by-step logical sequence, as we're saying today: motivation, focus, procrastination, concentration, which leads us to motivation idea number 4: reduce and rearrange the raw materials. And in my case, this means to use a tool called FreeMind, FREEMIND. And this works especially well for writing, like planning a book, but this also works well for planning a blog post, article, or even a podcast could work, or a high-ticket course you're selling, stuff like that. Pitch webinar, kind of, sort of, but a mind map tool basically allows you to create thought bubbles that connect to each other, and you can rearrange the list in a logical order. And you don't want to get crazy. You don't want to have a mind map from hell with thousands of things, but this free mind tool allows you to put all the thought bubbles on the right side. Forgive me because we're in audio format and I'm explaining this visual thing. But in mind map, you have an oval in the middle, and then you create these things called child nodes in FreeMind, and then you can create sub thoughts over to the right of the center node is called. And what I like to do is usually just branch out 4 sub thoughts, and then those sub thoughts can have sub thoughts. They can have their own child nodes, and we can rearrange and group things until it gets to the point where it's good enough. And if we added to it or perfected it or took away any more, then we would start having diminishing returns, if that makes sense. So a mind map, especially if you use FreeMind and don't make it all crazy, and only and you'll see what I mean once you start using FreeMind, only put nodes over to the right, only have 4 or 5 child nodes, and only go about 3 or 4 levels deep. You can really easily manipulate the order or grouping or sequence of things. And the reason why this is helpful is because the way I used to write, I would have ideas where my eyes were bigger than my stomach. And I said, I'm going to make a 100-page book about RSS feeds. And I'd start typing, thinking, I don't need an outline, I can just wing it. 10 pages in, I'd say, man, 10 pages down, 90 pages to go. But now, the way that I create books is I come up with too many ideas, and then I trim and group and rearrange the order, and I'm reducing and rearranging the raw materials to remove the things that don't need or compress all this cool stuff into a simple digestible package, so to speak. General motivation, 4 daily tasks, Seinfeld calendar, formula and checklist, reduce and rearrange the raw materials. Now here are my 4 best solutions for absolute focus and eliminating distraction, all that stuff. Dual monitors. Use your computer and don't have the TV on in the background or the radio on in the background. That's a real easy distraction. Have your monitor on your computer where you can see your windows, but plug in a second monitor. If you go on Amazon.com, you can easily get a second monitor for $100, and you usually, and I say usually because these days with some of these all-in-one PCs and laptops and stuff, they like to remove the connectors. But if you look in the back of your computer where the monitor plugs into the back, and usually next to it, there should be a somewhat similar looking connector, and if there is a second connector in the back of your monitor, or in the back of your computer, you're in luck. You can buy a $100 monitor and plug in this second monitor in the back. I'm currently using one of these all-in-one PCs where it looks kind of like a flat screen TV, but that's the whole computer. And even in that, there is a plug in the back where I plugged in my second $100 monitor. So you now have all this extra desktop space, and and then people say, even better, I'll have 3 or 4 monitors. Then you're back in distraction land. You're back in diminishing returns. But now you can do things like read something on one screen and write something on the other screen. You don't have to keep flipping back and forth, because if you just have one screen, you get tunnel vision, and you don't want to be having like a bunch of tabs open. But there's something to being able to read on one screen and look over and write on the other screen. And I don't know if this is true or not, but it feels like to me that if I read something on my main screen, the one that's right in front of me, and I write something, and that writing could mean coding as well, writing something on the right, to the right of my desk, to the right of my center, somehow like the physical, I don't know, like the physical state of my body now associates with a certain activity, if that makes sense. So I associate reading with the left side of my screen, writing with the right side of my screen. So left for viewing, right for creating, dual monitors. Focus idea number 2, remove whatever needs removing. And this is mostly for distractions. Remove clutter on your desk. Remove things you can fiddle with and play with. Remove your phone, social media, email, TV, and news. Okay? So remove those distractions. And then idea number 3 is to clear the clutter. Now we're talking about clutter both physical and virtual. This means that if you got tons of files on your desktop, select them all and put them all in a folder called Overflow, and then with the year and the month. And that way you'll still have those files tucked away if you need them, but you probably don't. And they're probably the same old folders and files that have been collecting dust on your desktop over and over again. It's kind of like that saying where if your garage is filled with crap over the last 10 years and you can't even go into your garage to get that stuff, do you really need all that stuff in your garage if you never get to it, never use it? Something to think about. So delete or just put away all the stuff that's sitting around. And this is also why I don't like whiteboards. I don't like whiteboards on the walls, because what happens with a whiteboard? You write something, you put it on the wall, and it stays there for weeks and months and never gets erased or changed. You don't want that. So that might mean that if you make notes for a podcast or a blog post, and you put out the podcast or the blog post, and that what you had to say is written down now and in the finalized form, you don't need those notes anymore. Delete them. You're never going to go back ever again. Sometimes later in the week, sometimes I'll need to check on things. Like I'll say maybe I transfer a .com domain name, and that's a process where I get something started, got to check back into it later. Or maybe I'll pay a bill or send a letter, and I want to follow up in a week or a month. So this is where google.com/calendar helps to clear the clutter, and I can put a little appointment for myself a month from now saying, check in on the status of whatever I just did. So I can put it out of my mind for now, forget about it. In a month, this pops up, I do the thing, and then delete it off my Google Calendar so I know that I did it. And absolute focused idea number 4, micro projects. You know how I talked about that 5-day sprint in the motivation section? I really like to start a new promotion or a new sprint, train of thought project on Monday, but then be absolutely sure that the project is somehow wrapped up by Friday. And you say, you don't understand. I've got to make some big software project, some big long book. Well, what if you had to? What if you were going to die on Saturday and you had to have it wrapped up by Friday? You'd find a way to round it out. And that means that if you were going to put out a book with 10 chapters in it, what if the first version of it, the first edition, had 4 chapters? Because that's all you can really get finished between now and Thursday or Friday. So you publish the book to Amazon Kindle with 4 chapters in it. Then you take the weekend off, and then you can come back to it, and if you feel like making chapter 5, 6, 7, that's what that next week is for. But then at the end of that, on Friday, you wrap up chapter 7 and republish the book, re-upload it to Amazon Kindle. There's something about not trusting yourself and making it where your projects are always shippable at any time, or at least by the end of the week. So I program some fairly big like WordPress and PHP kind of sites and projects and plugins all the time. Some things with 8,000 lines of code here and there, or I might have 5 or 10 of these plugins all with 8,000 lines of code working together. And I need the milestones, and I can't leave things open-ended over the weekend. I want to be optimistically pessimistic, hoping for the best, planning for the worst. Absolute focus, dual monitors, remove distractions, clear the clutter, and have these week-long micro projects that are wrapped up in some form on Friday. You can always restart on Monday. Now, 4 ways to overcome procrastination. My first question to you is, what quick 10-minute activity have you been putting it off? Well, do it now. I don't know, the funny thing about the things that you dread, maybe you dread making a quick phone call, making a breakup phone call, sending a letter, paying a bill, checking on something, filling out a form, submitting something on a website. If it only takes you 5-10 minutes to do it, and you've now spent 10 times what it would take stressing out about it, and it keeps distracting you, and it keeps distracting you over time. Now, I mean, if there's little 5-minute blips in the radar where you keep remembering it, and now you've thought about it for hours and hours and hours, and you could have been done in 10 minutes, it makes no sense. And the other thing too is that the actual performing of the task is many times easier than you worrying, dreading, anticipating that task, if that makes sense. So what quick 10-minute activity have you been putting off? Do it now. Pause this podcast, go and do it, and get it finished up. Procrastination idea number 2, an accountability partner. This means that you tell someone else, you don't broadcast to the whole world, but you tell a trusted person the 4 tasks you're going to do today. This is 4 daily tasks, 4DT. So you say, I'm going to broadcast on my list, record a podcast, I'm going to edit this sales letter, and then I'm going to set up these paid ads. And the great thing about this list is that, well, first of all, you should tell someone, but you can tell anyone. It doesn't have to be someone who's a coworker or in the same niche or industry as you. You can tell your spouse or your daughter or something. Just tell somebody the 4 things you're going to do. And even if you abbreviate those things, just give them the abbreviations, give them the letters and numbers, and then at the end of the day or at the end of your hour, or if you say, I'm going to do this until lunchtime, and then I call it quits for the day, then review back over and see if you got nothing done, or if you only got one thing done, and those situations might mean that your task needs to be broken up into more bite-sized pieces. So you might say, all right, well, you know what? My first task is going to be write 1 chapter of my book, and then I'm going to do this, and this. I'm super ambitious. You couldn't even finish writing chapter 1 of your book. So tomorrow, how about instead of focusing on the whole chapter, you say for your 4 tasks that, well, I'm going to get through a page of my chapter, another page, I'm going to spell check it real quick. Okay, one thing that we do in internet marketing is a thing called a landing page, an opt-in page, where you make a real short web page where you say, here's a headline, here's a subheadline, here's a form to fill out, fill in this form, and now you have joined my email list, and in exchange, you have gotten something for free. An example of this is backupcreator.com/cash flow. Simple web page, but if you find yourself unable to do it, break the task up tomorrow and say the first task is to set up a blank web page. Cool. Next task, make a headline. Next task, put the code, the form on there to make so someone can fill something in and push a button. And the final task, add some bullet points. All right, now you finally got somewhere. If you're really bad in your time management, if you've really gotten into a bad place, then the answer there is to tell your accountability partner what you're going to do, but have them call you once per hour to check in on your progress. And you might be saying, well, I don't want to do that. I don't want somebody to annoy me. Okay, but I thought you wanted to get help. I thought you wanted to change your ways, break the pattern, change the habits. And speaking of changing the patterns and the habits, a big helpful tool for me for overcoming procrastination is to not ask myself how I feel about doing something. Because if you ask yourself how you feel about doing something, most of the time, the answer is going to be, well, I don't feel like doing it. Like, who really feels like they want to go to the gym every day or go running every day? But if you don't, you're going to regret it. You're going to break the cycle. Instead of asking yourself how you feel, commit to doing it. It's a must or a should. It's a decision you chose to make, and now you're going to follow through. And the decision isn't to plan to do it or try or maybe do it and see how I feel. The answer is just to do it. Start doing it, and then it's hard to stop. Procrastination, 10-minute activity, accountability partners, shut down distractions, and change the pattern. In the home stretch of today's Robert Plank show, concentration. So, a lot of people try to say that their way to get to concentrate themselves is to listen to music or things like that, or to visualize what they want to do. And I mean, I don't know, binaural beats or listen to music you like or stuff like that. I mean, I guess that might work for you, but it's kind of cheesy, kind of hokey. Let's talk about real stuff. The first thing in concentration is simple. Ask yourself, what are the top 3 things to focus on? If you're at a loss when I'm telling you things like do 4 things a day or commit to this one project for 5 days, okay, well, you might have all these responsibilities and things like that, but out of all those, what if you only had to do 3? What if a doctor said you need to be in bed 23 hours a day or 22 hours a day, and you can only do 3 things a day? You'd figure out some way to only do 3 things. Avoid going an inch deep and a mile wide. Avoid moving in a millimeter in a million directions. Get things knocked out. Concentration idea number 2 is a hokey one, but stay with me. It's called meditation. But meditation doesn't have to mean that you're sitting cross-legged on the floor, chanting stuff and humming stuff. Meditation can just mean silence and reflectiveness. Because if you don't get a break from just people and your thoughts during the day, then it's going to be hard to recharge your batteries. And if you're always having to deal with noise and screaming and stuff, you need to have a break, right? And if you're always looking at a screen as well, that's tough too. And if you find yourself where you can't even go to the bathroom without taking your phone with you, or you can't even leave the house without turning around and get the phone, you need this thing called meditation, which can just mean you go on a walk without playing music, without having your phone on you, without talking to anyone, just silence where there isn't even music to distract you. Meditation meaning silence and reflectiveness. And so I threw this one in because my business partner Lance Tamashiro is a dad, and he has 2 kids, and his office is in the basement. And it's funny because when he is meeting with me or he's recording a video, sometimes there'll be kids screaming in the back, and I'm like, oh geez, here he goes again. Like, how can he get any kind of thinking done? And then I found out a few months before I'm recording this podcast, that he bought an audio recording booth. And it looks kind of almost like a little bigger than a phone booth, and it has, padding all around, and there's a door to walk in. And I'm just thinking, you bought a totally silent recording booth just to keep the kids out. Like, those kids are going to be pounding on the door on the outside, and you won't be able to hear them, and that way you get your focus. So there's something to that. The next thing is that a state change is as good as rest, meaning that, or if not better. I mean, you should have downtime and things like that, but every now and then change it up. Every now and then do your laptoping your business in a different room of the house, or in a coffee shop, or work remotely or things like that. But mix up your environment, and that alone can sometimes jolt you into action. And finally, concentration idea number 4 is to run an appointment-based business. The best tool I can recommend, well, I guess the 2 or 3 tools is, first of all, number 1, timetrade.com, timetrade.com. Next is GoToWebinar and Camtasia Recorder. I get the most things done in a day when things are done on a schedule. And I don't mean the day is cram-packed, scheduled even to the point of bathroom breaks, but my best days are when I have a coaching call at a certain date and time, and I have to show up there because it's on the calendar, and so I'm letting someone down if I don't show up. It's done in 30 minutes, or it's done in an hour. Once it's done, that's done. That thing is knocked out. If I need to whip out a quick product or revise my book, I schedule time to do it. And so, if we have a pitch webinar or a standing meeting, we use GoToWebinar and Google Calendar for that, so that we organize the notes that can sync with other people's calendars, that can pop up on our computer, sync to iPhone and iPad, and then the tool Time Trade I mentioned is great because you can set your office hours, and you can say that there is a block of time on Monday from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. where anyone who has the special link can reserve a 30-minute block of time. And you can mix this up as much as you want. Make it every day of the week, some days of the week. You can, say, well, here are my holiday weeks. You can say someone can reserve a 15-minute slot, an hour slot. You can change it all up. But the point is that there's this hidden link, and anyone who has the link can look at this calendar and see when you have open office hours and schedule their own appointment. And now what happens? They schedule their own little appointment using this free tool called Time Trade. It hooks up to your Google Calendar. That way you see this reminder coming up. You get notified when it does come up. And they get reminder emails reminding them of the appointment that they scheduled with you. So we use this for our Platinum training program at doubleagentmarketing.com/platinum, and also for some of the bonuses inside of incomemachine.com and membershipcube.com. Someone could join our membership course, and as a bonus, sometimes we say, well, as a bonus for joining our membership course, you get software training, blah, 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 and you also get a 30-minute coaching call. Then they join, they click a link, they see our calendar, they see open spots, they find an open spot. Now that appointment is booked, and as part of the booking process, they fill in their phone number and name and Skype username so that when the appointment comes up, we know how to contact them. So simple, but also very powerful. Concentration, top 3 things to focus on: meditation, but not the hokey kind, state change, and an appointment-based business. Let's go down quickly through all 16 ways, 16 ideas, methods to solve procrastination, achieve absolute razor-sharp focus, and improve concentration on demand. Here we go real quick. All 16. Motivation, 4 daily tasks, Seinfeld calendar, formula and checklist, reduce and rearrange. Focus, dual monitors, remove distractions, clear clutter, micro projects. Procrastination, 10-minute activity, accountability partner, shut down distractions, change the pattern and commit instead of asking how you feel about it. And concentration, top 3 things: meditation, state change, and appointment-based business. If you find yourself always running out of time, overwhelmed, and all that bad stuff, in a rut, can't seem to get to where you want to go, I highly recommend that you join my training course at timemanagementoncrack.com. Let's see if I can spell it right this time. That's timemanagementoncrack.com. Time Management on Crack. At least check out the webpage to see what we have there to get your focus back, get your life back, get your time back, and get your energy back and feel better and make more money. And it's a win-win all around. Time Management on Crack. So listen and tune in to future episodes of The Robert Plank Show at robertplank.com. And I know you might have not done it yet, but you need to subscribe to our podcast on iTunes. It really does help us with the rankings. Go to robertplankshow.com/ITUNES. That's robertplankshow.com/iTunes. Click on subscribe. That way, Apple registers that. Click on leave a review and leave a 5-star review, and even just type one quick sentence telling us what you liked. If you like this episode, like what I talk about, whatever, say something good about us and a 5-star review, because that helps us in the ranking. I'm Robert Plank. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode to solve your procrastination, get motivated, get your focus back, and improve that concentration. We give you 16 things. Pick up the top 3. Use them this coming week. If those lose effectiveness, pick a new top 3. I'm Robert Plank. Do it now, and thank you.